Good morning, everyone. I hope you are feeling well after yesterday's party. Thank you for coming. We'll be talking about mobile payment security. Mobile payment security. As you can see, it can be implemented in a secure and a less secure way. But seriously, we'll be rather not talking about mobile ATMs, but rather about mobile contactless payments. When you are using your phone to pay for your coffee, for your beer, or for a grocery store. So maybe first we'll show you how it works.
Okay, so now I have the contactless payment terminal. I have my mobile phone. I'll just show you this video over there. It will be better. Okay.
So this is the terminal.
Yeah.
Sum up terminal.
Timed out in the meantime. Yeah, so I'll try it again. And now I have the mobile phone. I'll just try to pay with it. It should work just flawlessly, but you know, live demos. I should just tap over it and do nothing more. I even don't need to enter any PIN on my phone, and it just works. Not in this live demo, but in real life. Like
Sorry?
We'll try to do it again in a few moments.
Let's go back to the static slide.
Yeah. You know,
so as you can
demos.
see, it works like that you are just tapping your phone, just like a normal plastic contactless card, to the payment terminal. You are not entering any PIN on the phone and on the terminal, and for a small amount, transaction is just accepted. The only thing that you have to have is to not unlock, but to have screen active. The screen should be active to NFC to work, and that's all. So the technology is very convenient, so probably it will be used by the customer on the large scale. But what about nowadays? Is it popular? How many of you have ever used the mobile contactless payments? Okay. What about normal contactless payment cards? I mean the plastic cards. Okay. So as you can see, probably this technology will be used in the nearby future or even nowadays. And maybe how many of you are protecting such as solutions or developing such as solutions? I mean mobile contactless payments. Not too many, but still. So it will be used in the future. Definitely. Nowadays, I just managed to find a slide from the last year that there is some market research that 55 banks last year has implemented HCE technology, mobile payments technology on Android platform. As you can see, the most market penetration is on the Far Eastern China and Central Eastern Europe. In Central and Eastern Europe, we are from Poland, we have 16 different banks who already implemented HCE in live systems last year. So if it will be used on the mass scale, probably it will be also gather the interest of the potential fraudsters. But considering the history, I have found some facts that, for example, 5 years ago, NatWest Bank has suspended their GetCash app. GetCash was used to allow customers to withdraw money only with the phone. They decided to suspend this application due to frauds. Last year, we have seen some news about using Apple Pay platform just as a carrier for stolen card data to use the stolen cards data on a brick and mortar shopping. And only I think it was at the beginning of the May, so just 2 weeks ago, I saw the news from Sydney police that they arrested 2 men who were using HCE to make 1.5 million in fraudulent purchases. So for me, it's rather present danger. Fraudsters are nowadays interested in these mobile payments technologies. So we decided to research the potential attacks and potential countermeasures against these attacks. So main parts of our presentation will be a discussion of potential attack scenarios and potential countermeasures that can stop those attacks. So we want to do this presentation a little bit different. It will be like a blue team, red team exercise. And my name is Wojtek Dworakowski. I am a Securing CEO. And on this picture, I am wearing the helmet. So of course, I will be defending side in this exercise.
My name is Jasek, and I will be on the opposite side.
Okay, so, but first let's start with a short HC technology intro, because some of you are using this technology, but probably not everyone knows how this technology is working. So, few facts. First, we'll be talking not about every mobile payment technology, because there are multiple solutions on the market nowadays. There are some cardless solutions, but we'll be not talking about, let's say, PayPal wallet, etc. We'll be talking only about card-based solution, when the card actually is stored inside your phone. So nowadays we have two different types of implementation. First is based on special hardware, so called secure element, when the card data is stored in a special hardware, and this is the way that Apple Pay, for example, works. Also, we have some kind of solutions based on the SIM card, but it is rather nowadays a matter of history, because it's difficult to implement, because you have to the bank have to have some kind of agreement with the carrier, because banks don't own the SIM, so it's difficult from the business perspective. On an Android platform, of course, Google don't have a total control at their hardware, yeah, and we have multiple of phones, so Google decided to move to the software. So we have HCE, which is host card emulation, and this is the technology that emulates the payment card inside the software. So that's why it is interesting from attacker perspective, of course. And this technology, HCE, is used by Android Pay and by all banking apps used to mobile payments and third-party apps used to mobile payments. So we'll be talking only about HCE on Android platform. The first question is where card data are actually stored. So, of course, on secure element, iOS, etc., the card data is stored just in this special hardware. But what about HCE? In HCE, card data are just stored in the application folder, and it is protected by just the Android platform security features. That's all. The other thing is the whole infrastructures that make the payment works. So we have so-called secure element in the cloud. It is the official name in the all vendors documentation. We have a NFC controller and HCE API, which is the part of the Android platform from version 4.4 up. And we have HCE applet and this infrastructure secure element in the cloud, which is delivered by the payment vendor like Visa, MasterCard, or third-party vendors. So from developers' perspective, developers are just seeing the secure element in the cloud API, and they don't need to understand all the HCE mechanics. So it's quite convenient for the developers.
Yeah, well, I see a kind of problem with this documentation, because this is the documentation that the bank gets, how it works, and they try to impose that this is some kind of separate entity, and they call it an applet, just like the Java card applet that works in secure element, and they use the same names. So I noticed that there's sometimes it's lost in translation that it's actually a library, a software library that becomes part of mobile application and stores the data in the same files accessible by this mobile application.
Yeah, so most of developers will think that it is secure because we have secure element in the cloud. But actually, is it not secure? Because, for example, in vendors documentation, we can see that we have secure environment in the cloud, of course, which is protected by two firewalls and the proxy?
Well, I will show you in a few minutes that these two firewalls and reverse proxy will not stop me from cloning this card data. So,
we decided to research this, and we'll show you the potential attacks and potential countermeasures.
You probably saw that I didn't need to enter any PIN on the phone, so I just need to have physical access to the phone to my payments, so I could just steal it and make the payments, right? That's just so easy.
Yes, but considering just the stolen phone, the risk is, of course, similar as for normal plastic card, which can be cloned to and used for contactless payments. And the risk is rather low because such as attacks could be used just for a small scale, because just for a small transaction, because transaction cap for single transaction is only 25 euros, you should steal the whole phone. And for me, this attack is not too practical because nowadays, how many minutes after the phone was stolen, you will notice that you don't have your favorite toy?
Well, yeah, you might be right. There is another attack, very interesting one, that has been around for several years, and interesting talks about it, that you could just do an NFC relay. So I will get close to you as a victim, and my fellow in crime will be close to a payment terminal, and I will remotely relay the NFC to the payment terminal, so I will be able to make the transactions without you even knowing about it.
Yes, this attack was well written and well known, but for me it's very interesting, of course, from technical point of view. But again, this attack is not too practical. First, you have to have very close proximity in the same time to the victim and to the payment terminal. And mostly, despite of what media are saying, it will not work through the back or through the wallet. And then you have a very short window of opportunity because you have to, one attacker should be very close at the bus, for example, to the victim, and the other should be at the same time at the shop making the contactless payments. Then on Android platform, as you said, NFC works only with a screen turned on. So those factors make this attack really impractical. And of course, if you are really paranoid, you can use additional countermeasures, like you can enforce screen unlock, or enforce user to enter the PIN for every transaction, which of course will hurt user experience. But the better solution is to detect communication delays due to proxying.
Right. So how about stealing card data in transit? You usually have a very complex architecture, and the card data is flowing somewhere there. You must have made a mistake somewhere there, so I could steal it somewhere, sniff it or something, and have it just, well.
Yeah, the idea is good, but the problem is that the actual card data are never transmitted through the network because of so-called tokenization. Tokenization is replacing static personal account number, the card number, with a random number just for one use. So this random number is stored inside your phone and is used only for one transaction. And you have only a few so-called tokens, those virtual card data, card numbers. And a good thing about tokens is that they have a limited use. For example, you cannot use this token data as a card data at ATM. So that's the tokenization.
Well, actually, you are right that in this way, I cannot steal the original card number and make online payments with it. But actually, you have to store on the phone all the keys and card data necessary to make the contactless payment. So that's what I will be after. I will try to steal these keys that make the contactless payments possible. So I will be after the keys. So how do I do it? Well, in order to steal something from Android phone, I could use probably an Android malware. There is a bunch of them, and they can overlay and trick users into entering pins or something. They can intercept SMSs. I could write targeted something to send malicious intents if your application is vulnerable, and so on. So
okay. There is Android malware, of course, but the card data is stored in the application directory. And as you know, the one application and the malware cannot reach to the other application data.
Well, you actually are right, but how if about that my malware would exploit some Android vulnerabilities in your unpatched phone and gain the root credentials? Having root credentials, having root access to the phone, there is no sandbox, and I have access to all the files, and I can steal the card data which is stored in user space, right? Mm-hmm. And we are not talking about rooting the phone by the user. We are talking about malware that gains root access using unpatched phone vulnerabilities.
Okay, but is rooting malware popular nowadays?
Well, just take a look at the recent headers. There are many examples of malware which roots the phones, and recently there are millions of phones which are infected by this. So I believe it is a real risk. So having malware remote root access to the victim's phone, I could get this payment keys which are stored in the user space, right?
Okay, but the keys on the Android platform or HCE platform are encrypted.
Well, yes, well, of course they are encrypted. That's what I would expect, right? So in order to decrypt them, I could, for example, try to decompile the Android binary, understand how it works, and decrypt it, right?
Yeah, we are talking about high-risk applications. So probably you will see something like this. The code is usually heavily obfuscated, and especially when we are talking about reversing the crypto, it's not so easy.
Well, it is technically possible, but you are right that doing this for every application would be very tedious. And I believe that you imagine that I would take my simple tool in order to try to somehow break this mechanism, but maybe there is just a workaround around it. So how about we take this 2 steps back and take a look how this encryption actually works. So we know that there is no need to enter anything from the user, and there is also a business requirement for this to work in offline. So the keys have to be stored somewhere, somehow on the device, right? The encryption key has to be, for example, somewhere stored on the phone, and it may be combined with something hard-coded in the application binary, right? Well, there's just no other way. It has to work like this one. So you probably already have an idea what to do to clone this. So I will just take another phone, install the same application, and just copy all the data to the other phone, right? And this should work.
It will be too simple because the key is tied to the device. Because you forgot about one fact, that there is a third factor considering the encryption key, because there is also device-specific characteristic which builds the key, the encryption key.
Right. So how about that I buy exactly the same hardware phone, and I even change the email number so that it's by the hardware it's exactly the same phone, and then I copy the data. Well,
yes, okay, probably it will work, but again, from attacker perspective, it makes this attack not so effective because I have to have multiple phones just for every victim and for every Android phone which the victim might have. So it's not very practical attack on a mass scale.
Yeah, well, all right. So let's try to do it on another device. So now let's try to do the live demo.
Finger crossed.
Yeah. Okay. So you will see what's happening over there. I have this payment terminal. I may try to make another payment so that you could see that there is actual a working card in it. Okay. In the meantime, I will connect to this victim's phone remotely using ADB, but let's assume that I have remote access by a malware. Okay, so I am connected to this phone in the meantime. ADB show. So now I will use my secret root access, and I will run a backup script.
So Sławek is emulating the malware?
Yeah, in the meantime, I will probably be able to pay. Let's try. No, it didn't work this time again. But hopefully it will work on a cloned one. I can run the cloning script. Okay, so now it's copying all the relevant data from this mobile phone remotely. Okay, so I will download this data. It's just a tar. And I have another phone which doesn't have Android Pay activated. So on this victim's phone, I can read the card data using, for example, card reader. So that we can see that there is actually a card. That will be better visible when I move this. Okay. So when I press the card reader against it, I am able to see the actual card number over there. This is the tokenized card number, not the real one. So hopefully you won't be able to make transactions using it because this is my real card number. And I have another phone. This is the attacker's phone. And when I try to read a card on it using the same technique, the card is not yet activated. Open up again. Yep. Yeah. When I try to read the card from the attacker's phone, it says the Android Pay is not set up. So there is no card in it at this moment.
So this is the fresh phone without any card data.
A different user and so on. So I will connect to this attacker's phone. ADB disconnect. ADB. Oh. 1, 2. Okay, I will push the cloned data. Oh, sorry, it's not very convenient to write there.
So we are uploading whole card data to the fresh phone.
Yeah.
And maybe you haven't noticed, but the phones are different. They are not same platform and same model.
Okay, so I will just shout to this attacker's phone. Okay, and use my secret root and restore the data. Okay. And I will just need to reboot this phone. Okay, it should reboot now.
But this is the attacker phone, so we can reboot it many times, etc.
And I will try to invoke a transaction using it. Hopefully, on the cloned one, it will work. Okay.
The terminal is not it doesn't show the transaction, so probably you have some problem with the internet or something like that.
I can already scan the card number from it. Oh, the terminal is waking up, and I will try to pay. Yeah, well, it didn't work at this moment, not because...
Maybe some kind of interference between the field.
I'll try again.
But we have a card data, as you can see on the attacker's phone. We can check just if it is the same card as we.
Yeah, I can read this card using the card reader again on the attacker's phone. Yeah, and this is the exact card number I was able to read from the original victim's phone. We have just a communication problem with the terminal, I suppose, because it didn't work in the original one.
Yeah,
also.
But as you can see, we were able to copy card data to the other phone, and you have to believe us because we don't have nowadays working payment terminal. That we can make the normal transaction using this copied.
I'll try again. Maybe I will be more lucky this time. But you will just have to believe us. We already made a demo and published it on the internet. Please wait. No. So we'll get back to the slides. And I was able to do the cloning. Unfortunately, it didn't work on this payment terminal, but yeah, it's just a live demo. Well, the cloning script was not really a rocket surgery. I used just a tar, change owner, and a simple script to restore the SE Linux properties. Well, I actually promised not to disclose this script, but let's do just a 2-second show, and we'll cut it up later. So
and you will forget about those scripts.
Yeah, and the restore script was just also the simple one. So here it was. Thank you.
Yeah, so I could agree that having root access to the victim phone, you can make just one low-value transaction, but still there are some protections on the system because we have limits on multiple transactions because you are able only to do one transaction, and we have limits on transaction amounts. Because of this tokenization, it works like this, that inside the phone, there are stored only a few tokens, and each token is limited to 25 euros. So when the user is out of transactions, out of those tokens, there is so-called key replenishment process. And key replenishment process is quite secure because it uses so-called split key technique usually, when one key is encrypted with the other key. So effectively, we have two keys. One of those keys is transmitted through mobile wallet server, which belongs to, let's say, bank, to the issuer, and the other part of the key, the other key, is pushed to Google Cloud Messaging. So it's quite secure. It's quite difficult to intercept those additional tokens and to make more transactions.
In the meantime, I made another transaction, and it was just confirmed. So, sorry, I couldn't show it to you on this video, but it just worked in the meantime. Okay, so, well...
After that, we can try this with your cards. So, if you don't believe us.
Yeah, well, but having cloned the original application, I am already able to talk to the mobile wallet server just exactly like the same, like the original user. So the server cannot tell between attacker and the original user. So I can get this part. Another part, which is usually sent via Google Push, well, I could intercept on the original victim's phone, having still access to it, or I could just try to reroute it to my phone, and I was able to get the push on my cloned device without any problems. I got the Google Push messages on the cloned device. So I could also make multiple transactions. So I could renew these temporary keys on my spoofed device.
Mm-hmm. So, okay, you can make few low-value transactions from another device. You can also make multiple, but still low-value transactions using this cloning technique. Because there are so-called floor limit. Each transaction in the contactless payments is limited only to 25 euros by the system. Then, when you want to do transaction above this floor limit, you have to enter the PIN. And PIN usually is entered on the terminal. And terminal, of course, payment terminal is external to the phone, so it's impossible to hijack this PIN.
Well, but how do you actually set up this PIN? Well, as a result of business requirement, it's quite often that the whole enrollment of the new mobile contactless payment card has to be online and using mobile application. So when you set up the new card, you also set up the PIN in the mobile application. So, of course, having malware on this mobile phone, I could also intercept this PIN, right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is possible, but of course, you have a very short window of opportunity because you have to have this root malware on the victim phone during the PIN setup process.
Well, yes, but I could also trick the user later into entering the PIN during the transaction by having overlay over it, or just a pop-up that now you have to change the PIN. So the user could be tricked into entering PIN because he entered it before in the mobile application. It's not something strange. And there is also another very interesting from the attacker's perspective technology. It's called CDCVM. So I will just show you how it works. This is the transaction over the 25 euro, and you watch carefully where do you enter the PIN. So the PIN is actually entered on the mobile phone. The mobile phone authorizes these transactions and tells the terminal that this transaction is authorized, and the terminal doesn't need to ask for the PIN anymore.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I can agree that CDCVM is really crazy technology because you are entering the PIN on the mobile device, on the untrusted part of the system. Yeah, but nowadays CDCVM technique is not very common. We just checked that only 20% of current payment apps supports CDCVM. So what if application does not support CDCVM?
Well, if your application does not support CDCVM, your HCE library that you implemented in may support it, because it has this functionality already, you just don't use it. So, and the API names cannot be obfuscated, so I can say API names like set CVM verification mode to true and set CVM verified to true. So I could, for example, patch the application to always tell the terminal that that this transaction is authorized, and the terminal will not ask for the PIN anymore, right? So in this way, I could probably make transactions on higher amounts above this 25 euro floor limit.
Okay, so I could agree that it is this cloning technique is a clear and present danger when you are considering that the attacker could have a root on your phone using the malware. So how can we protect against such as attacks? The one thing I want you to remember that there is no silver bullet. There is no single solutions that will protect such as applications, I mean HCE payments, against cloning attacks. So we have to use many different layers of security, many different solutions to make attack ineffective or not to be the last one, the last bank that will be constantly attacked. So let's go through the possible solutions. First is root detection. Nowadays we have multiple techniques that we can use when you want to detect if there is a root on the phone, if the user rooted or malware has rooted. The most effective probably from the developer perspective is just to use the Google Safety Net. There is so-called Google Safety Net. It's a special system with a so-called attestation API. It works like quite simple because it examines software and hardware on your phone. It creates special profile. The profile is then compared in the cloud with a database of well-known devices. And if there is some kind of differences, it can detect that the phone was rooted, that there is potential malware, etc. So it detects routing by customer, they will detect custom ROM and also low-level malware. And if you don't want to be bound by the Google solutions, you can also use, for example, root beer. And root beer is an open source implementation, free to use.
Yeah, but you kind of should know that if I have a root access to the victim's phone, I always will be able to hide from the root detection techniques, and it's this kind of cat and mouse game.
Because it's client side.
Yeah, well, you spoke about safety net. Android Pay, which I just cloned, uses safety net and checks if the phone is rooted. I had root access to this phone, and this is the way the safety net checks for super user binary. So instead of using SU, I just use my initials as J. You may have probably noticed that, and they didn't see that the phone is rooted.
Yeah, so it's bypassable. The another technique that you can use as a countermeasure is to use device characteristics as a part of the key during the encryption. As you can remember, there is three parts of the key, and one of the parts is device-specific characteristic. So we can use different characteristics like Android ID or device ID, or phone number or manufacturer and model to build this key. Yeah.
Yeah, but you have to know that as an attacker on my phone, I can change these characteristics using, for example, exposed framework, which allows me to affect the API calls by the mobile application, and it returns just different values, for example, changed by me, or the same values as on the original device. So having other device, I can just spoof the original device characteristics using such kind of tools.
So using exposed framework, you can just mimic the device.
Yeah, well, and this countermeasure, the security mechanism, I just can. It's not a problem for me anymore.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so what we can do is to check more device characteristic. Of course, it is not super universal technique, but we can also check, for example, device serial, SIM serial, or just a physical characteristic of the phone. Display size, CPU, sensors, because it's constant in the time. It's user is not able to change the display, CPU, or sensors. So we can also build the key using this additional characteristic, and this is the proper measure against such attacks.
I could also spoof them, but it would require more work from me.
Yeah.
Right.
But the other solutions is, for example, to use to take into the consideration integrity protection, because as you can see, there is some techniques that involves the manipulating with the app. For example, this CDCVM patching, etc. So what we can use is to involve more and more integrity protection in our app. For example, use heavy code obfuscation, check the install source, signing keys, etc. to make it difficult to modify the application. And on the server side, we should also improve fraud detection, which is probably the good way to go against these attacks. So what we can do to improve fraud detection? First, we can use some kind of device scoring. For example, if we will notice that the customer has outdated Android without current patches, or they have a bootloader unlocked or rooted the phone, etc., it makes this device more risky. So it should some kind influence our fraud detection system. Then we can also have a behavioral analysis to detect just a kill chain, which makes this cloned transaction possible. And finally, we should use general countermeasures for financial app, like, for example, special business rules that we can have on a bank side, not only on the payment side, transaction limits, for example, make it a little bit higher than just the 25 euros, but let's say 100 euros, something like that, which is the hard limit enforced on the bank side. We can also have notifications that the user is notified that in the short amount of time, a lot of money just were transferred.
Yeah, well, you just need to remember that I having access to his phone, I can also intercept this notification and just
exactly.
Do not forward it.
And we should also use application security good practices. Especially, we should disable unused methods inside the APIs. We should secure interfaces for other applications, and we should ensure that there is no information leakage in logs, etc. That's a common for all applications, but it should be especially used in these financial mobile payment applications. So as a summary, there is no silver bullet. You have to use many defense options to increase the security and to make attacks ineffective. We will be writing the white paper about the potential countermeasures, so contact us if it is an important topic for you. But we also have did some kind of research if these countermeasures are actually used nowadays. So we have tested 9 different implementations of HCE, Android Pay, and 8 different implementations, 8 different apps provided by banks. And here are the results. We were 100% effective in cloning the cards and make the payments. So probably most of current implementations aren't using these additional solutions to protect against the cloning.
Yeah, well, for the easiest one, there was no root detection even. The very simple device check, so I just needed to change the build prop file. Didn't need to spoof anything, and the push for replenishment wasn't via Google Cloud, so I could just send a simple REST API request to the banking server and got the new keys. On the other side, the hardest one had a very good, checked a lot of device characteristics, so I needed to use Expose framework to mimic the original device, but at the same time they had a very good root detection, and I wasn't really easily able to hide this Expose framework, so I ended up in cloning on the same physical device. And that worked as a proof of concept, but was much more difficult to perform. So as an attacker, I would probably leave this application alone and move to another target.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's all. So please use these additional countermeasures when you are building such a solution, mobile payment solutions. If you are interested in this topic, you can contact us using Twitter or email. And there is also HCE cloning FAQ on our website.
And so, I still hope I will be able to provide you the live demo if you will stay. So I will try it again.
So meantime, maybe you have questions. One guy over there, I think.
Yeah, maybe this is the metallic.
I cannot hear you, sorry.
Given that there's a dependence on installing malware on the Android phone, obviously if you have physical access, then it's pretty much game over in that respect. But have you any sort of worked examples of how to actually get that malware on the phone? For instance, maybe backdooring a legitimate app with something like a Drozer agent and then being able to attack it remotely. Have you done any work in that area?
Not really. So we have now examples of working Android malware with root access. There are plenty of them, I think.
Does it specifically require the victim device to be rooted? Or
No. We have to emphasize that the routing is not routing by the user, but by the malware. So malware is just utilizing the well-known Android bugs to gain the root access. So the risk is for all users, not only for these users who are rooted their phone by purpose.
Any other questions at all?
Okay, so thank you. Oh, one more question, sorry. Sorry, I can't hear you.
Oh, can I just ask first?
Uh-huh.
Did you find any sensitive information like unencrypted credit card?
Yeah, well, they do store the temporary keys mostly. Sometimes they store a few digits of the original card. Sometimes they store transactions that were made and something like that. But this is all encrypted. And in a few cases, we did the decryption thing. We reversed the encryption algorithm and so on. But for our attack, on the other cases, in order to make the proof of concept that the cloning is possible, I just used this workaround. I just didn't need to make this reversing. I just copied the data on the spoofed device.
Yeah, actually, you don't have a sensitive data on the. You shouldn't have sensitive data on the phone because of tokenization. Token just it was like one-time credit card numbers and the encryption. Yep.
So, of those 9 apps that you successfully cloned, is there a list available of those that you cloned, and did they fix it?
Did they fix that? No.
Actually, we are showing that it is not vulnerabilities by itself. It's rather lack of protection nowadays. But nowadays, probably not many banks are considered the routing malware as a current threat. So that's the problem.
Yeah, well, we made this as a proof of concept because we noticed that our clients, in banks, believe that it's impossible.
The first cloning, the idea of this research was from one of our customers because we were testing HCE solutions for them, and they tried to convince their own developers that it is possible to clone card data because developers insisted that it is not possible because it's a secure element in the cloud and it is not possible. So we have shown the proof of concept that it is possible. Yeah. As an opener. Okay, so thank you.
Thank you very much.